Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And remember this, watching CNN News to learn about facts is like watching the old sitcom Green Acres to learn about farming. How true. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Please call in. Let's get things rolling. Good morning. And a good morning to you on a Monday. It's been snowing, it's been blowing, it's been almost everything out there this morning. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and welcome to our program this morning, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you for the best of tires for wintertime driving. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
My friend.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Wills. Hey, folks, in a couple of minutes, I'd like to say something very personal to you, the audience, and my advertisers and everything. So that's coming up in about 5 minutes or so. So I'd appreciate it if you'd stay tuned. We'll give you that little note. Right now, it's time for our weather, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. And they offer the best of rental of tools and equipment all over the valley. You better believe it. And they've got all the heaters and the sewer snakes, and they've got all the log splitters. They've got it all for you right there with Roger and the crew at K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Monday, and we are looking at a 50% chance of snow before noon, plus it's going to be blowing out there as well. Mostly sunny skies by this afternoon, expecting a high of 36. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. Total snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible for today. Tonight, patchy freezing fog. After midnight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 20. For tomorrow, that patchy freezing fog is going to carry over in the morning hours. Other than that, mostly cloudy skies, high of 35. Wind could gust as high as 24 miles an hour. For tomorrow night, cloudy skies with a low of 31. Then by Wednesday, 20% chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy skies with a high of 41. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, she does a wonderful job. Gina, thank you. And brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Right there, as I said, on the Burley-Paul Highway. Number to call, 678-3122. K&R Rental. Want to also remind you about our dear friends at Darrow's Cleaners. My, can they clean? I've taken in some pretty bad-looking clothes that had stains on them and everything, and they come back brand spanking new. Absolutely the best. Darrow's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew, don't forget, don't just throw away those tablecloths in the drawer or save them till you might need them again and say, oh, well, we'll clean them before we need them again. Then you won't, and they're a mess. So take them in there, get everything cleaned and looking shipshape at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Caller, I'll be with you in just a second. Stand by, please. Want to remind you, too, about our dear friends over at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Hello, Rita, Glenn, the whole crew at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Don't forget the best that really can help you, and they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Morning to you, Zeb Bell.
Well, hello, my friend.
Yeah, I just come back for a doctor's appointment. I went by your place yesterday, but it was awful, so we just waved at you anyway.
Well, you're barely coming through this morning, Keith, but I want to tell you how much I appreciate you and Nancy, great friends, and I hope all goes well at the doctor's appointment, and God's blessings, and drives very, very carefully.
Yeah, just one note about our Pelosi. You know, I think you and I ought to get together with the crew and we'll go tear her fence down around her place. She don't need it.
Well, either that or Obama's and everybody else that has a huge fence around their property. Oh, walls don't work, though, however they tell us. You know, Keith, I appreciate you, and I hope you and your wife have a wonderful wintertime vacation, and we'll look forward to having you back up here again. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you, bud.
You bet. God bless you. Thank you so much. Just a moment. Stay tuned. I've got a note that I want to get out that's a very personal note to my audience and my advertisers, so stand by for that. I want to say thank you, too, also to Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley, and they've got another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. They have the best of breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time. What delicious menu choices available to you at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Thomas and the whole crew, Michelle, everybody over there, really with a big smile on their face, waiting to serve you. Stop in and see them today. Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. I want to take this time to kind of offer an apology, if I may. I was not on the show last Thursday, and I feel that my audience and my advertisers and sponsors all need to know what happened. It was something that happened at the spur of the moment, and I'm very sorry. About 30 minutes before the program started on Thursday, it was decided, after talking to medical professionals and some people that really know far more than I do about situations, that we rush Deanne in for an evaluation at the hospital. And I want to say this up front, nothing takes first place over Deanne. And I called Gina and Wheels and let them know. I know it was at the last minute, basically before the program. And I want to say thank you because they're part of my family. They are part of my family, Gina and Wheels, and they jumped in and were so gracious to help out. And this instance could not be avoided. But to you, all of the audience that called and well wishes, etc., Deanna's doing much, much better. And as I said, when it comes to this program, or Deanne, I'm sorry, this program's going to take second place. And I thank you for your kindnesses and everything, and I just wanted to issue that this morning. There were a lot of people that wondered where I was, how come I was only on one day last week, and then bingo, bango, gone again. Well, that's the reason. And life moves on and moves forward, and I certainly hope that you, the listeners, will stay with our program. We're the only program in the state of Idaho that has all the national guests, and we will continue to do so with a lot of time and effort for you. So basically, thank you for your kindness and your patience. I am sorry about last Thursday, but it had to be done. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, all the bumps and the bruises and the sprains and the strains and the muscle pulls and tears and the accidents and the rehab from surgery, all of this can be addressed through their exercise programs and the use of the hydrotherapy pool at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Nick Greenwell and the entire staff, the best. Call for an appointment, 678-1191, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget, Tuesday, tomorrow, at 9:46, we'll have the Stotz Equipment Company Ag Minutes. You betcha your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley. The best. Vic and the whole crew, and we're looking forward to having him on the program. It's been a while since we've talked to him. Don't forget, stop into Stotz Equipment Company. They make your life easier. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, two things I want to talk about. First off, I totally understand when it comes to taking care of your wife. That does make a top priority.
Well, thank you, Rod. I appreciate that. I know some people that called were wondering why we didn't have this on or that on or the other, and I just want to amplify the fact that it was a decision that had to be made at the last minute, and I stand behind my decision.
And I totally agree with you. Second off, I was wondering, since the Democrats are blocking funding for the wall and all, what would you say to starting a nationwide campaign to sort of take up a collection to raise money for the wall?
You know, that has been mentioned by other people that said that they wanted the funds to go into a pot that was earmarked only for the wall and our border security. I'm not against it at all. I've heard this even from some politicians. I've heard it over the last 5-6 days or whatever, and some private business concerns, and I'm in favor of it. I want the wall. I want border security, and I want things tightened up. And if that offends somebody, so be it.
Well, you know what? My dad came up with the same idea, and there's a GoFundMe page that's trying to do the same thing.
Yep. Rod, you and your folks and everything, I appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You too. I'll see you later.
All right, buddy. Caller number 2, I'm going to ask you to stay right there. I will be there momentarily. I want to remind everybody about Ark Animal Hospital, Dr. Bill, Dr. Jordan, the whole crew, where they've got great big warm hearts for cold noses. Mixed animal practice, meaning big animals, small animals, in between, dogs, kitty cats, dairy cattle. They take care of them all, and they want them to stay healthy. And again, I stress about the urgency of making sure they have adequate supplies of good, non-frozen water, okay? That's extremely important. Don't forget Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn, 678-1177. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Happy New Year.
Thank you, my dear friend.
You know, unfortunately, the Democratic Party has become our Trojan horse of this century. And just like the Greeks, they sent that Trojan horse over full of troops to take over a city, and they want to see the hordes of these illegals pour into our country and bring our country to a knees so the Democratic Party can reshape it.
Well, Tony, the Democratic Party, they have shown that, and I'm going to be very simplistic in my approach with my verbiage, they're liars. Back in 2006, 2007, 2008, all of them were espousing the fact of having bigger and better border security and stopping illegal aliens from coming into the country. And then all of a sudden they flip-flopped because they were starting to lose power in the House, the Senate, and, of course, now the presidency. All they're after, like you said, are the votes that are going to try to keep them and their stupid policies in power. And I totally agree with you. Watch out for the Democrats. I don't trust them. To me, they're a rattlesnake coiled and ready to strike.
Well, going to have more and more of those Cortez-type people running for public office here, and that's the danger we're going to run into.
Well, I think pretty soon the public's going to understand how stupid she really is. I mean, there is a young woman that absolutely does not have the mental capabilities of really deciding if 2 and 2 really does mean 4. She is not the brightest or sharpest knife in the drawer.
Well, she wants to put everybody in the country on welfare, so who's going to pay the taxes to support these people?
She's asking for and thinking about a 90% tax on the wealthy in this country, and that to me is so absolutely abhorrent. I am sick and tired of the socialist movement in this country taking away from people that have worked doggone hard to achieve success and then give it to people that are too dang lazy to go to work for it themselves.
Well, a lot of companies will be moving back overseas if the Democrats take power.
You got it. You got it, buddy. Hey, give Mary a kiss and tell her we said hello. Thank you so much.
All right, certainly will. Thank you, Zach.
All right, buddy. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Want to remind you that at 8:30 this morning, don't forget we're going to give away some cookies this morning from Sophie's Chatterbox. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning from the Burley Senior Center on South Overland. Today's menu is beef stroganoff, spinach for a vegetable, and we'll have some fruit and some cake with yummy frosting.
Okay. Joe, I got to ask you something real quick. Now, do you like spinach?
Yes.
I do, too. It's one of my very favorites, and a lot of people are going to look at the radio kind of cross-eyed right now. But, boy, I love spinach. I love spinach salads. I like that spinach mix that you can make for chips and chip dip. I love spinach. I've always loved it. And it's going to be at the Senior Junction today, and that's the menu with yummy, yummy cake for dessert.
And we have meals to take out if you call in 208-862. 208-8...
678?
I don't know. 208-86... what is that? No, the Senior Center anyway.
All right, I think it helped me because I don't...
For $5 you can get a dinner to go.
You bet. Hey, listen, I think I'll help you a little bit if I can remember it. Isn't it 208-878-6... I forgot the number. We're both in trouble. All right, Joe. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
All right.
We're having ham dinner tomorrow.
Oh, sounds good to me. Thanks, Joe.
Bye.
All right. You know, sometimes, and I can empathize with Joe, sometimes you can say the same number 1,000 times, 2,000 times, and then all of a sudden you're cruising along and your mind just has a wide spot in the road that has no markers and you have no idea where you're headed. I know that's happened to me. Want to remind you, I really appreciate your calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Dino's Septic Service. My septic tank pumping. Ooh, you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. They do. That's their job, and they do their job very well. They've expanded recently to better serve all the folks in the Magic Valley, and I'll tell you what, they've got a great backhoe service and water and sewer lines installed, liquid waste removal, all of this and more. And all you need to do is call 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. Fast, fare, friendly service with the big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. Glad to have them on the program. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zab.
Hi.
Hi. Did you come up with the Senior Center number?
No, we couldn't remember it.
Isn't that awful when you glitch like that? It just won't come. It's 208-878-8646.
Well, see how easy it rolled off your lips.
Oh, dear, and I love spinach.
Well, I'm so glad you called and everything. And, Linda, you're one of our great listeners, and I appreciate your helping us because we couldn't remember the number. And thank you.
Oh, I might will do that, too.
Oh, and by the way, I understand that your birthday was yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad Deanna's better, and I'm glad that you were able to be there for her and support her. And I will slip in some prayers for her.
That means a lot, Linda, and I thank you very much. But you know what? Like I said earlier, we have a team of people that are part of my family. There has never been a time. There's never been a time when I've needed, in a last-minute crisis, help that Gina and Wheels and others over there didn't step in, and they deserve a big thank you for all they do.
They surely do. Isn't it great to have people that stand around and around you and help you and support you and our family?
Oh, I couldn't do it without them, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Linda, God bless you. Thank you for your call, and enjoy your spinach.
I will do it. And we do have Lunch Bunch, which is wonderful. You know, those people stand with you, too.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you. There's a lovely lady, and I hope she had a happy birthday yesterday, and calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Finally, somebody in Congress has the nerve, the backbone, the spine, the courage, whatever you want to call it, to stand up and say, you know what? We need to have term limits in this country. We need to limit the congressmen and the senators' long terms. I really respected this guy. I watched him on television the other day, and then I've read some things about him. Congressman Francis Rooney from Florida, Republican, said, you know what? We're too long. We're too entrenched. We are so crusty and rusty in our chairs back there, we're not getting the job done. Whoa! What a refreshing thought. And he introduced a bill for term limits on congressmen and senators. And I know. It's wishful thinking, probably won't get any traction, probably won't get any action, but it's a shame because this one man, Congressman Francis Rooney, had the backbone to stand up and say, we need term limits. Hooray. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to give away some cookies right now. We haven't had a chance to give away cookies for a while from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, along with all the cookies in their wonderful bakery, all the pies and the cakes. Oh, the wedding cakes are absolutely beautiful wedding cakes. They make everything. And then, of course, they've got that delicious restaurant over there at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. I'm going to ask you to get back in the swing of things this morning. A really easy question, and the first person that calls in with the right answer will win the cookies, and all you have to do is call over to Sophie's and let them know when you're going to be there to pick them up. And the question is this. One of Hollywood's funniest men starred in the TV sitcom years ago, McHale's Navy, and also was on the Carol Burnett Show. Who was he? One of Hollywood's funniest men starred in McHale's Navy and also on the Carol Burnett Show. Who was he? Please give me the name, and you'll win the cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox. Call 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline. While I'm waiting for your call, now that's an easy one. Come on, that really, you should have that right on the tip of your tongue. One of Hollywood's funniest men. This guy was hilarious. Some of the things that he did in the Carol Burnett Show were unbelievable. Who was he? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental. Don't forget sales, service, and parts. And they've got 3 locations, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, Eli, and the Nampa location. They've got all the Bobcats. I mean, that here a Bobcat, there a Bobcat, all over the place Bobcats. Don't know how to run one? That's okay. They got a big sandbox. They will teach you. Oh, my goodness, along with all the other equipment rentals, and retail equipment sales, they really can help. Barry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. It's Tim Conway.
And who is this?
This is Galen Smyer.
You know, I recognize your voice, and I hope everything is going well for you in a well-deserved retirement, fishing, and probably playing Jeremiah Johnson or whatever. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm working on my wife's honeydew list, and it's amazing how creative they can be at times. But I'm enjoying it. It's an adjustment, but it's something that I've looked forward to for quite some time.
Let me ask you something, Galen. We've been friends for almost 40 years, and when you talk about comedians, and you talk about being funny, and you talk about not having to use the filthy language that they're doing today, Tim Conway and others like him were absolutely hilarious, and I wish we could get back to that kind of comedy again. What are your thoughts?
I agree. Tim Conway and Don Knotts.
Oh.
That pair was just incredibly funny, and they appeared in a number of movies together, and I appreciate clever, but far more than I appreciate crude.
You know, it was so interesting you said Don Knotts, because I almost was going to ask a question about Don Knotts this morning, of Andy of Mayberry fame. But Don Knotts, absolutely, he could do more with a look, or he could do more by just having his hair mussed up or whatever. He didn't have to hardly say a word.
Yeah, they were just comical people.
You know, Galen, God bless you. Call over to Sophie's. The cookies are yours. If you get sugar cookies without any frosting, don't forget to call my home number. I'll be right there.
There you go.
Okay.
Best wishes to you, and Happy New Year.
God bless you. Thank you. What a nice man right there. I call him a friend, and he is. Galen Smyer, the winner. Thank you. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. What kind, talking about low class, and I would call many or most of the comedians, if you want to call them that today, very low classed. But also our congressmen and our senators. When I heard, caller, I'll be right there. When I heard a freshman Michigan Democratic Congresswoman, a Muslim, her name is Rashida Tlaib, using filthy language against President Trump at a rally for her last week, I was absolutely taken aback as to how low, filthy, sleazy the left can go. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
Just remember the words of Michelle Obama: when they go low, we go high. But I think they got that chart upside down.
Well, evidently they didn't pass the eye test.
No, they didn't.
It wasn't, and honestly...
That at a MoveOn.org was established just after the impeachment of Clinton.
Yeah.
To prevent unjustified impeachment.
Well, what this woman said, though, I want you to address that. She wanted to help the Democrats impeach, and I'm not going to go any further with what she called President Donald Trump. But using that kind of gutter language, and her son was in the room standing off to her left. If that's the kind of an example and role model as a parent she's going to give her son, that is very indicative of how low class or no class the left is.
Exactly. how do terrorists grow up to be terrorists? They are taught by their parents to hate.
Yeah.
They're taught by their parents that this race of people should not even be on this earth, and that's how they grow up to be terrorists.
You know,
and that's what this gal's teaching her son.
Absolutely. And to use that kind of language, and then the people in the audience had told you what they were like also. There were all kinds of tee-hees and laughter and everything else as if it was no big deal. 20 years ago, if anybody had used that kind of language that would go into a public forum, etc., that person would be denigrated, and rightfully so. But this person is being pushed up by the left. And I'm going to just say this, and I don't care who in the world gets upset about it. She was one of 2 Muslim women that were sworn into Congress, and I absolutely have no use for this woman.
Yeah, and they were sworn in on a Quran.
That's right.
When this country was built on the faith in God, and in God we trust is our motto, how can someone swear to uphold the Constitution and protect the people of the United States on a Quran which is written to kill and destroy the people of the United States?
I would like to see someone on the right. No, I don't. I'm rephrase that. I apologize for my thought there because it's not correct. I don't want to see anybody on the right, conservatives, Republican, or whatever, use that kind of language because we can't stoop as low in the gutter as the Democrats are.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And had this happened, say, 4 or 5 years ago, if somebody had said that about President Obama,
oh my,
they would have been run out of town on a rail.
Well, had they been in the media, they wouldn't be. Had they been a politician, they wouldn't be. Had they been a private individual, it probably would have been investigated by the Secret Service. But this is okay for the Democrats to say such filth.
Yeah. Yeah, and back to Tim Conway, on a little lighter note, I seen a little snippet of Carol Burnett winning the Carol Burnett Award, and she had something and said something that was fantastic, that today they could not do or get away with what they did back then.
Yeah, and it wasn't getting away to the point of trying to be sexy or sleazy. It was the humor that was off the cuff, and it was clean humor, and also the cost factor. I also heard a little excerpt of that. Today, and it's very unfortunate, we can't have a resurgence of that kind of a funny hour on TV in prime time that would rely on good, solid, clean humor because I'm afraid the public wouldn't accept it.
They wouldn't. And one of Tim's funniest skits was the Siamese twins elephants that were connected at the trunk.
Oh, my. Yeah.
Every time I see that, I just laugh out loud.
Well, the one that got me the worst, and I've got another caller waiting, Doug, but I've got the one that got me, and I still roll over with laughter, is when Harvey Korman is in a dentist chair and Tim Conway's the dentist, and he shoots himself with the Novocaine.
That's a funny one, too.
Okay.
And years ago, I used to live in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and I had the honor of working with Tim Conway's son out there at one of the resorts.
Really?
Yeah, and the kid was nothing like Tim. I mean, he didn't have the sense of humor Tim did, but he said there's never a dull moment around the house.
Oh, my goodness, no. Got to run. I got another call. Quickly, Doug, I know what you want to say.
You bet. It's a new year, so let's start a new resolution. Let's take care of our senior centers. Let's go eat there. Let's support them. Do what you can.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't you dare go away. I want to tell everybody about Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Deanna and I went in there the other day, and we met with Lorena, and we looked around at all the car stereos and the speakers and all the complete sound systems and all the TV sets, Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, everything. They have all your electronics needs. They have all the home theater systems. I'm urging urging you to stop in and talk to them today. Wonderful people, nice people at Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. Lorena and the rest of the crew can definitely help you at Patterson's in Burley. Really good folks. Caller, you've been so patient. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem, Jeff. Hey, you know what's funny is the religion of Muslim preaches that they are a patient and peaceful religion. Yet, statements like this from these people who claim to hide behind that particular mantle are nothing but hypocrites, and it's hypocritical of both the left and of that particular people of that religion.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really afraid, and I mean this, caller, when I look at people like her, Muslim Representative Rashida Tlaib, and I look at others like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I look at Elizabeth Warren, and I look at others on the left with a new wave of pro-socialism, get rid of this Constitution, replace it, I'm really concerned about what's going on in our country.
Oh, you have to be really concerned, and if you're not, then you're just not really paying attention, or do you care about the country? Because people like that are pushing their political agenda, and I say what, AOC, she's an embarrassment to the college she went to school with. Because I've never seen anyone who's got a master's in business or finance or economics and is as dumb as she is, because she really does not make any sense when she's trying to talk about policies and anything like that.
You know, what she said this weekend in rebuttal to people that were criticizing her intelligence and her stupid statements, she came out, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said it's okay. It's okay to make misstatements. It's okay as long as the bottom point is made. In other words, it's okay to lie. It's okay to exaggerate, or it's okay to be stupid as long as you get your point across. And I wrinkled my eyebrows and I thought, is this what America's coming to?
Well, and that's what's so crazy, because going off that same particular thing, she attacked Steve Scalise in a post on social media, and then her minions went after him as well, and then they were using slang as far as like, well, she's got a better aim. We should, take him and finish the job. And I mean, they're talking about assassinating this guy because of the fact that he stood up and actually was saying what was needed to be said. She's an idiot.
Well, I don't want anybody, I don't care who's offended by this, and it's going to sound maybe very prejudiced, and I hope it does. I don't want anybody standing up and putting their hand on the Quran to be sworn into office. I don't want anybody wearing a Palestinian flag as they stand up and are sworn in. To me, they should have been thrown out right there. The vote should have been nullified, and it's adios. We're going to have a revote and a redo.
No, I agree. If you're not going to stand behind this flag, this country, and this Constitution, you have no business really even being in the country.
Amen.
Being a member of Congress.
Couldn't agree more. We got to toughen it up, and we got to tighten it down, my friend. Look out, have a good day, and thanks for your call.
Thanks, Ed.
You bet, buddy. Thank you. Caller number 2, thank you. You've been patient. Go ahead.
Good morning and Happy New Year's, Ed. Haven't had a chance to call in with all the things going on but I right on the fact that we better wake up and smell the coffee and realize that Islam is a theocracy to conquer the world.
That's right.
That's been their goal from day one.
That's right.
The Christian Crusades were all about going back and taking back the Christian lands that the Muslim Islamic people had slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Christians out throughout the years, and they have a lowercase house and an upper house. In the lower house, they can act like nice people, be good neighbors, until they get control. And meaning control is only a small percentage, which has already happened in several communities, particularly in Minnesota, Texas, and so forth. And so once they get in control, it's a whole different deal. But the Quran has over 100 verses that says if we don't convert, they're going to kill us.
Yeah.
And but this oath of office, which you're just talking about, I mean, it is important that we put our politicians online. They take an oath. And, for example, right now, Article 4, Section 4 says that, they're to prevent invasion. And when you read the background of that, they knew what that invasion meant. It wasn't necessarily a standing army, but we're being invaded by all these illegal aliens I don't call them undocumented immigrants. They're illegal aliens. And these sanctuary cities has got to stop. We've got to really just stop all immigration for a while and find out exactly who's here, and send back those that are criminals. But they're not. Of course, they're not willing to assimilate. Like my grandfather came over here in 1903, spoke German. He had a sponsor. He had good health. You didn't get in here unless you had a sponsor.
Well, let me jump in, Adrian. Let me jump in and share part of the conversation with you here a little bit. I agree with everything you've said. You're spot on. You're right on, and that's the way it should be. But we've got a census coming up in 2020 that they want to try to eliminate the question: are you basically an American citizen? And there are those on the left that want that stricken, and they want anybody and everybody to fill out, I think, a very important paper that should have pride and tendencies towards being proud to be an American. And they want to take that away. And for those that want to take that away, those are the politicians that should be stricken from office. I want to see a tightening in this country to where we go back to the original values of this country. I don't care if I denigrate a Muslim woman that is in Congress because she said something so stupid and so filthy. I don't care if I denigrate another woman that stood up there with a Palestinian flag on while she's being sworn in. That is not the America that I want.
Absolutely. And, it's here locally, too. Over Christmas, met a couple that I've known you for years, and she's a Christian, wears a cross as a necklace. She went into, I won't mention the business because, but anyway, we went into this business, big business here in Twin Falls, and had a cross on, and a couple Muslim women came up to her and said, "That cross offends me, take it off."
Yeah, well, that'd be the
true story. This is not made up.
No, I understand. I've got to get a weather forecast on here, but I'm going to tell you this: all the more reason why ministers
get back to the culture of this country. We're losing it, and our education system, unfortunately, is not what all the money we're spending, but what's being taught.
I agree. Got to run. Thank you. All right, sir.
Have a good one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Everything you said, I agree with. And, I use the words of Mr. T. Remember that on the A-Team years ago? I pity the fool. Well, I pity the fool that would tell me I wear a cross around my neck also. And I pity the fool that would say something like, "Take it off, it offends me." Time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they are right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and they are the best at serving you. I mean, wonderful doctors of audiology over there that absolutely know what they're doing and can help you with your hearing loss. Dr. Christine Pickup, Courtney Mitchell, Shane Hunsaker, all of these folks really know and want to serve you. All you need to do is make a call for an appointment at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's the weather.
Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Monday, and we are looking at a 50% chance of snow before noon, plus it's going to be blowing out there as well. Mostly sunny skies by this afternoon, expecting a high of 36. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. Total snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible for today. Tonight, patchy freezing fog. After midnight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 20. For tomorrow, that patchy freezing fog is going to carry over in the morning hours. Other than that, mostly cloudy skies, high of 35. Wind could gust as high as 24 miles an hour. For tomorrow night, cloudy skies with a low of 31. Then by Wednesday, 20% chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy skies with a high of 41. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth Rand.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you. And the weather brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They help me. They can help you. Please get a hold of them today. Make an appointment at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. There are others on the left that I think are absolutely... They're running basically on very low octane when it comes to their brain cells, including Georgia Democrat Congressman Hank Johnson. This guy is a black Democrat from Georgia, that absolutely has everything that is racist against you and I that are not of his skin color. He has compared Trump to Hitler, and he has gone after any and all Trump voters and supporters. And I listened to the tape, and basically he said that anyone and everyone that would be a Trump supporter is basically toothless, stupid, a drug addict with less education, and the list goes on and on. Now, this guy, Hank Johnson, is the epitome of a troublemaker on the left that wants, on his behalf, he's an elitist that thinks everybody should be his way. And when I listen to people like that say, well, all the supporters are toothless and they're stupid and they're drug addicts and they've got less education, gee whiz, I did not initially want to have President Donald Trump as President Donald Trump. He was not my first choice. But now, with the policies and everything that this man and this administration has done over the last 2 years, I'm very happy that he is president because he is breaking the mold and standing off in a field by himself, getting things done that should have been done for this country for a long, long time, other than just lip service by a bunch of lazy loons. And Hank Johnson is one of those lazy loons. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning again, Zeb.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, good. Yeah, hey, I just want to say, I find it absolutely disgusting that I share the same last name as that Hank guy.
Well, I tell you what, it's a shame. This man shouldn't be in Congress. He should absolutely probably not have any better job than just being the city dog catcher. But he's a despicable man, a hateful man, and to his credit, the only thing he has is stupidity.
Yeah, did you hear that he even had the idea that Guam could flip over if too many people were on it?
I did. He's the same low-class, no-class individual that said that. I didn't mention that a moment ago, but he's the one. That's good old Hank Johnson, Mr. Stupid.
Yeah, he's a blight to the Johnson name.
There you go, a blight. I like that.
I'm just glad I'm not actually related to him.
Well, I appreciate it, Rodney. Thank you so much. Appreciate a blight to the Johnson name. That's a good way to put it. I like that. Calls welcome. Thanks, buddy. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And then there was another guy on TV this weekend. Oh, they just seemed to crawl out of the woodwork on MSNBC and CNN and everything else. His name was Jason another Johnson. Sorry, Rodney. Jason Johnson came out and he said that the proposed wall being built by Donald Trump and all the Trump supporters is nothing more than a monument to white nationalism. Oh, here we go again. How many times do we have to sit back and go, I got to say this one more time because it makes me feel good. Please bear with me. I'm Caucasian. I'm proud of it. So I'm white. I love this country far more than any other country, and I support its Constitution. I say thank God for all my forefathers that gave their blood, sweat, and tears in their lives so that I could live in the greatest country in the world, America. So I'm a white nationalist, and I'm proud of it. Take that to the bank. All of us should be proud. We shouldn't cower in shame to these nincompoops. Never, ever be ashamed of being a white nationalist or a black nationalist or a brown nationalist for that matter. Who cares? Be proud of this country first and foremost. First and foremost. Feel better. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and serving is the key word. With the wintertime driving, Gina said we might get some more snow around the rest of the morning, slippery conditions. Be careful out there, please. And they've got all the tires, all the different tread designs, all the sizes for your cars, pickups, SUVs. Oh, yeah, everything. And along with the best in brake service and front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. Yeah, those colder mornings. See, you were smart because you went down and checked out a brand new battery at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, that means you're seeing Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Boy, coming up next hour, we've got, don't forget, Richard Manning. Caller, I've got about 45 seconds, real fast. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was wondering about wall when they come to the river, 1,000 miles. Will the wall be out in the middle of the river, or will it be on the bank, giving part of our river to the Mexicans? I'm a Republican, so another one, when they get to the Indian reservation, they can't cross it. So if they go around it, we'll be giving part of that to the Mexicans.
You know,
what do we do about that?
There's a lot of talk about how they're going to be looking at getting, quite frankly, the land and the land rights for the wall to finish it in the areas that are the most important. I'm out of time, but you bring up such a good point. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow morning on the program. And by the way, it's good to hear from you, my dear friend, and it's almost time to go fishing.
Yes, it is.
Okay, God bless you, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
You bet. What a nice man. I just really enjoy him. Calls welcome, 436-2244, but we're going to take a little break and be right back in a few moments with more. Richard Manning from D.C. Don't forget that. Wheels, take it away. Oh, my. Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, and welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch, and, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you for the best and safest of wintertime driving. And, of course, don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's have this good word for Western Waste. I'll be right back.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
I just had a caller the other day ask me about, well, listen, you talk about Western Waste Services. We're new in the area. What do we do to get on the route service? And I said, it's as simple as this. Just call their number at 734-6969. Talk to them. They'll get you all taken care of. And your garbage is gone. It's out of there. It's history. Give them a call today. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. Want to remind you, too, about a great business, and I think it's such an innovative idea to help senior citizens stay right in their home, and it's called Mini-Cassia Hearts for Seniors at 135 East 23rd Drive in Burley. Holly Rowe and the crew can help the seniors that want to stay at home with maybe some of the daily tasks or some of the meal preparation or maybe some of the light housekeeping or errands or whatever the case might be. Find out more. Call them at 312-5715. Of course, with the area code prefix 208, 312-5715. And don't forget, they want to help seniors stay at home. Mini-Cassia Hearts for Seniors. I certainly hope he had an outstanding Christmas and New Year's, but it's going to be good to talk to him again this morning. We got a whole bunch of things to mention this morning, and I'm going to give him an investment idea that if we could all invest in stupid, we'd all make a lot of money, because it seems like there's no end of stupid going on in politics in Washington. Good morning, Richard Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government.
How are you, Sam? I'm doing great. I did have a great Christmas and New Year, and hope you had the same.
I did, too. I miss talking to you because there's so much going on. Richard, you must be like me, just scratching your head and sitting back in the chair and going, wow, this is such a wave of stupidity that's flooding our country. Why isn't the little Dutch boy there to put his finger in the dike? What's going on?
Well, there is a wave of stupidity, but, and I'm going to put a different perspective on it. If you want to look at the government shutdown, I think what we're learning is we may be learning out in the real world that, at the national parks, we can pick up our own trash.
Amen.
And which is what I remember when I used to backpack, and, it was if you bring it in, you carry it out. Maybe we need to start doing that a little bit and start taking our own responsibility. And maybe we don't actually need a lot of these folks who we've been paying on the federal payroll. And maybe we need to take a real look at these appropriations bills. That Nancy Pelosi is going to drum up a bunch of appropriations bills that they're going to pass tomorrow. And we're encouraging the House Republicans to attempt to amend them to cut each one of these departments by 10%, and just put a 10% cut into the requested amount. Now, that won't pass because the Democrats control the House, and it wouldn't have passed when the Republicans controlled the House either. They agreed to these numbers through their appropriators. But the idea is we now have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to shift the focus back to the $21.9 trillion of debt. We've got to shift the focus to how much we're spending, because these are all spending bills. So we have an opportunity to fight on the spending and fight on the size and scope of government and start making these guys defend non-essential employees and say, yeah, we need non-essential employees. Well, then why are they non-essential? That's what we need to start doing, because ultimately the Democrats, the left, is exposed when people realize that a third-fourth of the government's shut down, and I don't really care. And that's when they're exposed. So we need to be taking full advantage of that while fighting to maintain to secure the southern border. So this is not just about the wall now. This is about what the government ought to be doing. And so when I came back, I gave this some real thought. And one of the advantages of kind of being able to refresh my brain a little bit is really rethink how this whole battle's going. And it seems to me that we need to use this as an opportunity to have a discussion about what government should be doing and shouldn't be doing. Because it seems to me that one of the basic functions of government is to protect our borders. And it isn't necessarily a basic function of government to be doing a lot of the other things. For instance, the TSA officers that are blue fluing right now. Those jobs used to be done. The airport authorities used to hire people to do those independently. Those were not federal jobs 10 years ago. And we changed all that. Well, maybe we need to go back to having those jobs being done, having the local airport authorities hiring those people to run those magnetometers. And we don't need to have federal employees running around going on a blue flu strike. Those are kinds of things we can reevaluate. Say, we've grown government here, we didn't need it. We've grown government over here, we didn't need it. And let's start using this as an excuse to look at where we can get rid of some of this nonsense. Because if we don't do it now while they're not doing anything, then we'll never get around to looking at and evaluating what actually can be gotten rid of and what should be gotten rid of and what should be privatized. And that's what we should be doing right now, and that's what we're pushing for.
Wow. I mean, I'm absolutely on your bandwagon. I'm ready to pull your wagon down the street in a parade. I agree with you. I got to tell you a funny story. You talk about TSA and some of the people that they hire, and honestly, some of them are not qualified to be doing anything like that as far as security at an airport. I'm on crutches, and it was about 7 years ago. I'm in St. Louis, and I'm catching a flight back to Salt Lake and then a flight back here to the Magic Valley. And I go up the line, and this guy, this great big guy, his name was Alfred. I'm not making this up. Great big guy looked at me, and he said, "Put your crutches on the conveyor belt and walk through." And I said, "Sir, if I could walk through without my crutches, I wouldn't need them in the first place." And this guy was totally lost. He looked around like somebody had stole his rubber ducky. And finally his manager had to explain to him that if I didn't need the crutches, I wouldn't be on them.
Yeah, it's a, well, you know, like I say, they advertise for TSA people on pizza boxes.
Yeah.
It isn't exactly, you know, it's an entry-level, it's kind of an entry-level job. The fact is, in the short term, if you needed to, you just bring the military to fill the function. And we've got privates and corporals sitting on Army and Air Force and Marine bases and all over the country, naval bases all over the country. And you just bring in those guys. You bring in your MPs. You have them do that job. And they're being paid, by the way. The military is being paid. So anybody who sees a meme that says, there's a meme that's going around in conservative circles, these guys shouldn't get paid until, as long as these guys aren't being paid. It's always the military guys are supposedly not being paid. Military guys are being paid. So understand, Department of Defense fully funded, and all the soldiers and military are being paid. Veterans are being paid their benefits. All those things have been taken care of. So just if you see that meme, just say military is being paid, disregard this. But we can bring those guys in and we can say, hey, you do the TSA job while we shift this responsibility back over to the private sector,
absolutely,
to the airport authorities, which, by the way, are not federal. So they would be able to then hire it out and get it done, and we can just lay off the whole crew of them. My last point on that, and it's kind of a joke, but given the job description at TSA, it seems like it's the only one that Joe Biden's actually qualified for, because what it requires is a willingness to grope people. And he's and that's his number one priority. It was his number one priority as vice president, was to grope anybody any person he got close enough to. So it'd be a perfect job for Joe the Groper.
Oh, my goodness. I love it. Listen, I've got to ask you about Democratic Georgia Congressman Hank Johnson. Where did that district find him? In what bayou did he kind of float to the surface from, that now he comes out and he says that all Trump supporters are toothless, stupid, drug addicts, with no education? And I checked the mirror this morning. I still have all my teeth. I checked the wall. I still have my college degree. And I'm not a drug addict. So I guess I don't fall in. I'm one of the oddities.
Well, you know, it's first of all, he's not exactly the model for an intellectual discussion, given the fact that he thought that if we stationed ships on the other side of Guam, that the island would flip over, and actually asked he asked military personnel in a committee hearing, expressing concern that if our plan to move ship movements into Guam, that it would in fact cause the island to flip over because it would make it unstable. Apparently, anybody who thinks that the island of Guam or any island is the equivalent of a floaty toy in the pool he's a congressman. He's an attorney. So I don't put a lot of stock into anything that Representative Hank Johnson has to say. But I do think he's proof of something, and I think it's really important for people to understand. Stupid people deserve to have representation too, and it doesn't mean that you put all the stupid people into one district. But it seems that there's always going to be somebody who is just so stupid that you can't believe that they ever got elected. Well, he's that guy. And so for all the people out there who are just completely out of touch and have absolutely no idea and couldn't add 1 and 1 and get 2, they have their congressman, and it's Hank Johnson. So, I don't begrudge that. But I don't have to take him seriously either.
Absolutely. However, there is a bright spot on the horizon politically with a congressman from Florida by the name of Francis Rooney, a Republican that has introduced a bill for term limits on Congress and the Senate. Oh, my goodness, let's put him up on a pedestal and praise the man.
Yeah, well, it's there have been term limits bills that have been introduced for as long as I've been alive, I think. If anybody out there believes that Congress is ever going to vote, 2/3 of Congress is ever going to vote to allow for term limits, constitutional amendment to go onto the states, at which point you need 37 states to agree to it, to put it into the Constitution. If anybody thinks that Congress is going to do that, you're much more aspirational, and you have a much greater belief in the goodwill of members of Congress to limit themselves from being able to do it, go back to Congress. Here's the fact, Zeb, and this is really important for people to hear. 80% of the Republicans in Congress have never been in the minority.
Wow.
Let me repeat that. That means 80%, 8 out of 10 were elected after Nancy Pelosi was Speaker. They've never had to be in the minority at all. So we have effectively term limits, at least on the Republican side, because we flipped over 80% of our delegation.
It's true.
In a period of 8 years. So so the reality is there are term limits to some extent. It's the term limits that people impose on their own representatives by saying, I don't want you there anymore, or you're too old, or maybe it's time for you to go. Or they get a job making a lot more money for somebody on K Street, whatever the motivation is. Now, the Democrats, I don't think they have that same situation. But on the Republican side, there has been effectively term limits, and that is and one of the great tragedies to me, in my mind, are people like Raul Labrador in Idaho, who self-term limited himself, and as a result, he ran for a different office. He did not win, and now Raul Labrador is no longer working for the people in Congress because he self-term limited himself, and he said, "I've only served 6 years." He kept his word. And so all the people who actually believe in term limits self-limit themselves. They keep their word, and they leave. And the people who don't believe in term limits stay forever. And we really need the opposite to occur. So it has some perverse negative effects, but I'm glad that the bill's been introduced, and it'll be interesting. I think people should encourage their members to co-sponsor it.
With the days that we have seen the shutdown of the government, which to me, I say, stick with it, Trump, don't weaken. The minute that you capitulate on this, you're done. You're toast. The party's done. Everything for your administration is over, because you can't capitulate and weaken on this, because there is no more of a bargaining chip. That's it. It's over. It's no more of a poker game. But how long do you think Trump's administration can survive with a media that is like a bunch of rabid dogs waiting to bite him in the throat? How long do you think this thing can go?
I think it can go. Well, first of all, understand the Senate. President Trump has not vetoed anything. Right now, the House has passed 2 pieces of legislation. One at the end of last Congress, which is no longer valid, where they funded the wall. The Senate didn't bring that up for a vote. Then the House passed legislation that didn't fund the wall, or the House passed legislation that didn't fund the wall this Congress, and the Senate hasn't brought that up for a vote. So what we have here is the president's veto threat Mitch McConnell saying, why should we sit there and do this until the president and the House work out what's going to happen, and then we'll move forward. So the president hasn't actually vetoed anything at this point. Congress hasn't put a bill on his desk. So that's the reality. So structurally, the president has threatened to veto, but he hasn't actually physically vetoed any bills. The negotiation point, and this is what I keep telling people, and I think we're going to get to where people understand this, but this is the number that Mitch McConnell is looking at. Mitch McConnell is looking at in the Senate two numbers. He's looking at the number 60, which is how many votes it takes to get something passed. He's looking at the number 34, which is the number of votes you need to override a veto. And as far as the Trump, our side, the Trump side is, the number 34 is the number that matters. Because as long as you've got 34 in the Senate and 146 in the House out of 435, as long as you have those two things, President Trump's veto holds, and a Trump veto, which could occur downstream, would in fact be inviolable, and the government would remain shut down. So President Trump ultimately has more power than Nancy Pelosi, more power than Mitch McConnell, so long as and more power than Chuck Schumer, as long as he has 146 in the House or 34 in the Senate. All he needs is one or the other to hold a veto. At that juncture, the government will not reopen. And that is the power that the president has with the veto pen. It's why I argued for the last 2 years that he should be using it on the Republican Congress as a threat to get them to actually establish his priorities back then. But he chose to to trust them that they were going to do the right thing, and then Paul Ryan didn't. And so now we're in this situation. So if anybody wants to get mad about anybody about the shutdown, they need to call Paul Ryan somewhere in Wisconsin and tell him, why didn't you fund the wall when you had the chance?
Absolutely.
This is a Paul Ryan problem.
Absolutely. Real quick, and it's not fair to you, Richard, to rush you through this, but with the border and the wall and the placement of the wall, what kind of future problems are we going to have, in your opinion, with the eminent domain on private property and trying to install the wall and make it effective?
Well, I think they're going to, in terms of putting the wall into place, you're going to have to use eminent domain. That's the reason why you can't privately fund the wall. And, there will be some people who don't like it. But by and large, most of the landowners, and by the way, a lot of it is public land, so that's another problem. But a lot of the landowners are seeing real problems with violence and other problems on their land as people come across the border and threaten their households. So I would bet you that many of those landowners will be more than happy to trade the 10 foot at the border that it take to build the wall in exchange for the security it'll provide their households.
Absolutely. I understand that there is a possibility that you will not be with us on the program come next August. I understand that you might be in the Bears training camp as the new place kicker.
Well, if he said offensive lineman, it might have been a better chance. But the Bears are. Listen, my heart goes out to the guy. I mean, that's just what terrible luck.
Oh my!
He hits it right through the center when they before the timeout, and then he clanks it off, not just the crossbar, but also actually not just the upright, but also the crossbar. And it's just a terrible luck, and my heart went out for this guy. And all the media guys chasing him around with cameras, sticking cameras in his face. Just terrible. It made me feel like in 1993 when I was unsuccessful in overriding a governor veto on a semi-auto ban in New Jersey when I was an NRA lobbyist, and I had every camera in America was in my face wanting my reaction, and it was probably the hardest media day I've had in my entire life. And so my heart goes out to that young man, and I hope he has a strong Christian belief to fall back on, and I hope he gets another chance.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and it's too bad that all the pressure was put on him because, quite frankly, when you look at the rest of the game, there were many other opportunities.
That's true, but the bottom line is it's football often comes down to, it is football, and it
Yep.
comes down to somebody kicking it. And, when you sign up for the job and you take the money, you take the responsibility. And while he feels terrible today, I just hope and pray that he has the underpinning, the faith underpinning to allow him to deal with disappointment and bounce back. And in America, we are a land of second chances, and I hope and pray he gets another chance somewhere, if not in Chicago, somewhere else.
Absolutely. President for Americans for Limited Government, our dear friend on this program, Richard Manning. God bless you. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you.
Absolutely. See you, Zeb.
All right, take care. Really enjoy having him on the program, and he knows what's going on out in Washington, D.C., on the Potomac, and elsewhere. Good guy, sharp guy. Let's not forget our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary. Hello, Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, serving you and your family at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. I urge you, and I mean this, we all should get the pre-planning and pre-information on funerals to help alleviate a lot of the stress and the worry for our families. And it's so easy to find out. All you have to do is just give them a call at 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, always the staff upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity in serving you and your family. Please call them today. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, and Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wonderful, wonderful people. Oh, man, it doesn't look that bad outside. I'm seeing some blue sky outside instead of all the snow and the wind and the hail and everything else we had earlier. I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Jeff Bronson, I got to get Jeff back on the air again. We haven't talked for quite some time. And they've got new floor coverings coming in, and they've got the luxury vinyl planks, and they've got all the carpet, and believe me, they can provide all the installation too. 48 months, interest-free, with free estimates. You better give them a call today. Absolutely wonderful people, helping with the beautification and the comfortization. I love that word. Don't even know if it really is one. Comfortization of your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. And one other good word before we go to our next guest, and that's, of course, with Nick and Randy and the whole crew over at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Oh, my. I tell you, they've got all the snowmobiles. They've got everything over there for you, and they've got the snow plows for the four-wheelers. Already used mine a bunch this year. They've got all the accessories, and they've got a service department over there to keep you running. Great people, knowledgeable people at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Open Monday through Friday 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. Don't forget Let's Ride. Oh yeah, this is where the fun is sold. Really good people. Mr. Wheels, I can hear you in the background.
Good. I was just making sure. Well, I was just going to let you know, I tried calling Mrs. Elena Georgia, but for some reason she's not answering. I already left her a voicemail, but...
Well, you just keep trying both of those numbers, if you would, please.
Will do, sir.
All right. I know that she's usually pretty prompt, so we'll see if she's there. Thank you. We are expecting Dr. Elena George, and she's been on our program many, many times in the past, talking about the Affordable Care Act, if you want to call it that, Obamacare. And she is scheduled to be on the air with us in just a few minutes, so let's see if we can get her down in Atlanta, Georgia, as a matter of fact. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, how about some calls? Give me a jingle regarding any subject you want to talk about this morning. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a jingle while I'm waiting for my guest here this morning. I started to ask this in the first hour, and I really would appreciate it if somebody would give me an answer on the air. Seriously. How, today, Does a person or a family stay true to their faith and their beliefs and their roots when all around us are evil people? And I mean this. There are many, many evil people that are calling us bigots and hate mongers for our beliefs and the way we were raised. Answer that question for me. How do we stay true? What do you do? Don't just sit there and simplify it and say, oh, well, you just ignore these other people. No, you can't ignore these other people because they're doing anything and everything they can to destroy people's lives if they don't conform to their evil. And I'm really concerned about the Bible, what it tells us, and if we're listening. And the prophecies and the statements are what I believe in. I don't believe in human beings. I don't believe in what someone tells me, or I don't believe in what someone tells me to do. I believe in what the Bible says, and I'm going to maintain that level in my life. I'm not going to be changing or transitioning my thoughts to go along with some low IQ lefty that is disparaging my faith. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeff. I just turned my radio on here a little bit ago, and I caught what you're talking about. The only way I can tell you the way I do it, the way I live my life, the way I see fit, the way I was raised, is knowing that in the end days, I do my best to live the way that I was raised, the way that I was taught, the way my grandparents and my parents raised me to be an upstanding citizen, a good Christian, and do what I feel is the best. And it's kind of, you can't really say, well, I just ignore them, because the other people who are against Christianity, they're outspoken, they're loud, they're obnoxious, they're boisterous, they're rude. They'll do whatever they can to make themselves be heard and make you look bad. But in the long run of things, I have to look at myself and think, when I have to answer to the good Lord above, am I going to be able to stand there with a good conscience and say, Lord, I did my best?
No, I totally agree with that. And I think that was an excellent synopsis of your feelings and your faith and your thoughts. And I just wish that we had a whole bunch more people that thought that way. Thank you very much for your call this morning. I appreciate that.
You betcha.
Thank you. No, there's a lot of people that want to make what was wrong right, and they want to make what is right wrong. It's happening right now in so many things in our society. And the way I feel about it is, I know that, again, they'll come after me again on this program. They're coming after others. Tucker Carlson, they've already been after Hannity. They've already been after many, many more. And they're going to come after me again. I went through it once or twice before. Back in 2007 was the most serious. But if I change or modify or rebuke my beliefs that I know are right, I'm nothing more than a lying coward. And I'm not going to change. There are lifestyles that are unacceptable. There are practices that are unacceptable. There are things going on in our society today that are not in accordance with what our forefathers, our Constitution, and those that have given their lives for this country would absolutely roll over in their graves to see that are being changed and torn asunder. I'm not going to change. I am absolutely going to remain that way, and I certainly hope there are many of you in the audience that feel the same way. But I go back to the original question. How, today, does a person or a family stay true to their faith and their beliefs when others around us are caving in and falling like a house of cards? Give me a call, please. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. As our guest for this half hour evidently is not available, and we certainly hope Wheels will keep on trying to get her on the phone. But give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to remind you while I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in. Don't forget our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more by people that are really dedicated to serving you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. All you need to do is just make the appointment at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Caller, thank you for your time. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning again. You know, Zev, I've been thinking about this Nancy Pelosi deal. This one congresswoman from Michigan, I think it is, that has used all that foul language to the president and that sort of thing. I think it should be up to Nancy Pelosi to censor her from, because we can't have that kind of language going on, can we?
Well, Deanne, this is the sheet you need, I think, right here. I'm sorry. I was trying to talk to my wife at the same time listening to you. No, and I'm not going to put up with it. As far as this woman is concerned, her name is Rashida Tlaib. She was one of the 2 Democratic Muslim women sworn into office, used the Quran to take her oath of office. I have no use for these kinds of people. I don't want them as representatives of this United States, and if that sounds bigoted and hate-mongerish, so be it.
Well, that's the way I feel, too. To me, Congress should be kind of like going to church. You pay attention to who's speaking, and you wait your turn or raise your hand or whatever. That's how I imagine it should be. But it isn't. It's, and you see in Britain how they get up and even fist fight.
Yeah.
It's so wrong.
Well, for the 2 women... For the 2 women that ran from extremely heavily populated Muslim areas of the United States, it should prove and it should be indicative of the problem that's growing in this country with the tenets of Islam through Muslimism coming into our country to try to take over. And when we have 2 women, one, of course, wearing a Palestinian flag, and the other, of course, wanting to be sworn in by holding and putting her hand on the Quran, somebody should have put the brakes on and said, no, you're representatives of the United States government, the United States of America, and we do things a certain way, and we're not going to integrate all of these other concepts and basically patriotism to another country or another land.
When anyone is sworn in to Congress or the Senate, and they do not put their hand on the Bible, because those are the rules, and they are violating it clearly. And when they say they're going to go by the Quran, they're just thumbing their nose at us. They really are, because we're not going to do anything about it.
Well, and then for this Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, Democratic Michigan Congresswoman, Muslim, that made an absolutely filthy comment about impeaching President Trump this last week, they're showing to me that they have no class. They don't belong as a representative of our United States of America, and they should be put out of office immediately. I mean, a no class remark that absolutely was picked up by the media, and now the media in this country, disgustingly, is supporting this woman.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier in my first call that Nancy Pelosi should put a stop to this. She should be censored or something. Somebody's going to have to do something, because the next time somebody else comes along, they're going to do the same thing, and then pretty soon we got all this filth and hatred going on, and she does no more have control of that Congress than you or I.
No, I disagree with you. I think the opposite. I think the money The money and the power that Nancy Pelosi wields back there has been indicative of why she is the Speaker of the House again. I don't think this woman should be underestimated. I don't think the evil behind this woman, whether it's the Soros Foundation or others, should be underestimated. I think that is a major thrust as to why Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House today. Evil and money.
Yeah, well, I listened into an interview with her daughter.
Yep.
And her daughter said she's the kind of woman that'll cut your throat and watch you bleed to death.
Well, it's a despicable thing for a daughter to have to say that about her mother, but there again, it goes back to the power factor, and I agree. Keith, it's good to hear you back on the program. I got to run, but I thank you so much for your remarks. Thank you again.
You betcha. Bye-bye.
All right, God bless. Calls are welcome. I do not know what happened. Deanne's doing a little check-in, too, to Dr. Elena George, and I really value Dr. Elena George coming on the program. She, quite frankly, I think knows more about Obamacare and all the pitfalls and everything else about what we've been through with health care, more so than anyone else. She's a doctor down in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're trying to get her, but doesn't look like it's going to pan out. So I'm going to ask you, the audience, to please give us a jingle and fill in 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, thank you. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, hi, it's Dr. George. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dr. George, thank you. God bless you. I'm glad that we finally made the connection. How are you?
I'm fine. I apologize. I was with patients.
No. I understand being a doctor, there's a lot more to it than just sitting by a telephone waiting for a radio talk show, I'll tell you that. But I'm so blessed to have you be on the air for just a few moments. I wanted to ask you about what's called, and I put it in quotation marks, the Affordable Care Act, and the possible appeal of it, and how it is estimated it's going to affect a lot of Americans. Give us kind of a rough estimation of what your thoughts are.
Well, ultimately, even though the Texas judge passed the ruling, it's an injunction, so nothing's changed for anybody at this point until it goes up the chain of the judicial system. For the most important part of it is that the mandate is basically gone because there's now no value to the tax of carrying the Affordable Care Act. So if you don't want it, you're not going to have to pay any kind of fine because you don't have it. And that's the good part. So ultimately, that's the reason, or in my opinion, the Affordable Care Act is essentially gone, because now it opens up the door for people to find whatever they want that works for them without being forced to buy a policy that they can't afford or don't want. And we're seeing insurance companies now open up catastrophic plans again, where you don't have to have all this cafeteria coverage. You can have the minimum coverage, especially if you're healthy, and you don't have huge premiums to pay. And that's a really good thing, because it's about competition. And the Affordable Care Act got rid of competition. It really became a monopoly. The 4 big insurance companies, too big to fail. Some states where you only had one insurance company and the only choice. That has to stop. And it doesn't matter what this ruling says. That's already changing.
Dr. George, with the time and the effort and the money wasted and people's lives being affected by the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, etc., I mean, we can't look back in a regressive thought and say, oh my goodness, what happened in the past, it's devastating. We've got to look to the future. How do we get politicians with your expertise and other doctors to just sit back and say, no, don't mess with it. Let competitive insurance companies come in and we can solve the problem without government intervention? How do we get them to listen to us?
Well, we vote with our pocketbooks, and we stop buying these plans that are bankrupting us as doctors and patients and start looking at alternative measures. There's direct primary care. I've talked to you about that on your show before. Every state now has a family practice doctor, specialists who actually have a membership model. You spend a flat fee. Usually the cost for a primary care doctor is $60 a month, $120 for a family of 4. and it covers everything that goes on in the doctor's office. So instead of you ending up in an ER where they don't treat you anymore, they discharge you, you can be treated completely. You see the doctor, you get lab tests, you get blood work, and it's all covered for $60 a month. Now, again, nothing for everybody, but I think a lot of people will find that to be affordable compared to paying $5,000 out-of-pocket deductibles to an insurance company, plus upwards of $14,000 to $20,000 in premiums. That's the difference. You go for medical cost-sharing plans. There's a growing number of medical cost-sharing companies. Liberty HealthShare, MediShare, Samaritan, those are the older ones, but there are newer ones coming online that you can actually become a membership or part of a group across the country, pool your resources, and then access the inexpensive part of the healthcare system, which is actually the cash-based side. We need to expose the fact that people are paying more money if they have insurance versus people who don't. It's not a sustainable system, and I think now it can be exposed because people aren't locked into that system. And honestly, if you go to my website, drelenageorge.com, you can read about this. You can find links. You can do your own due diligence because it's about being an informed consumer.
Dr. George, I can remember vividly the first time I had you on this program, and we were talking about all the dangers of the Obamacare Affordable Care Act, etc., and the weakening of health care due to the fact that doctors and people getting into the medical profession, they probably would get out or leave. What is the status today, and how dangerous has it been? Are we losing a lot of good people?
We certainly are, and I think that the infrastructure of the healthcare system has changed. We are seeing mid-level providers on the front line of healthcare, not doctors anymore. Now we're seeing artificial intelligence literally become the primary or the provider, which is ridiculous. There's a film that I saw. It's on HBO, and they described a woman who had a surgery and went to an electronic ICU. That means there were no doctors there. She was just being monitored by machines, and she had a bad outcome because there was no human touch. This is not the standard of care that should be wanted by anybody. It's only as good as the human that's taking care of you. And in my opinion, that should be one who's the best trained, with the most experience, who knows everything that could be in terms of good or bad about taking care of the patient. Not algorithms, not artificial intelligence. And people need to start really wanting more of their health care and not settling. And if they don't like it, vote with your pocketbook and find another physician. Again, if you go to my website, you'll learn that there are doctors just like myself all over the country, independent, not on the payroll of a hospital, where the Hippocratic Oath is supreme and not some bureaucrat telling you what you have to do to, deny your patient care.
With the denigration of health care and the saying that doctors are going to be set on a pay schedule that they can't exceed, etc., all of these fears that came to fruition, what about the incentives for young people today, Dr. George, to go to good medical schools, to go to be doctors or pediatricians or go to involved in cancer research, etc.? Are the incentives coming back, and are they available?
Not quite yet. Unfortunately, the pendulum is still swinging in the opposite direction, and we have to start valuing the physicians in our society instead of demonizing us, because as we go, that's how the healthcare system goes. And if we want to follow the Affordable Care Act paradigm, that means rationing. I don't care what anybody says. The architects wanted the most care to be given between the age of 15 and 40, and if you fall outside those age ranges, you're not going to get good quality health care. You're going to get on a wait list, and you're going to get managed, or you won't get anything at all. That's not health care. And honestly, it's not about the lack of health care. It's about the abundance. There are plenty of doctors out here, and there are doctors who graduate from medical school but can't get a residency and aren't working. The system is completely broken. But they don't want us in this system. They want people who are going to go along, get along, just do an algorithm, pass out a medication, and be happy. And I refuse to do that. And I think patients need to expect and want more for their health care than they're getting.
Pardon me for asking a really naive question here, but you say the system. Who or whom is in control of the system that they can go thumbs up or thumbs down?
Actually, it's a few moving pieces in that system. It's the big pharma, it's the hospitals, it's the insurance industry, it's the government. They're all basically a consortium that's driving our health care. And they're driving the costs up. They're inserting themselves as middlemen. They're practicing medicine with the sanctioning of the government. Affordable Care Act was basically putting this into a rigid structure where the government became the payer. You know, they're responsible for the purse. They're dishing it out to the insurance companies, hospitals, etc. And the patient is the engine through taxes. That's how the system was set up. And the doctors are bystanders. All they're there for is to write a prescription and to oversee a mid-level provider at this point. The system is basically a machine. It's not about health care anymore. It's about control, about having information on each patient, what their habits are, what their social habits are, what medications they're taking, and it's basically metadata. You are data now, and the healthcare data is one of the most important and powerful pieces of data that the government or anybody can have because it doesn't change. Your financial data can change, you can move, you can get married, all sorts of things can change, but not your health information.
Absolutely. Dr. Elena George, I hate to be cutting this interview short, but I have to at this time, and I certainly will call you to come back for a more lengthy discussion. God bless you. You've always been such a straight shooter on our program. Dr. Elena George, drelenageorge.com. Thank you for being on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure, Evan. People can go to iTunes and download my radio show, Medicine on Call. We're talking about a lot of things this year that are, I think, helpful to patients.
Absolutely. Thank you, and God bless. I'll have you back soon.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you. A very, very nice doctor and just a super informed lady when it comes to all that we went through with Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, etc. Dr. Elena George out of Atlanta, Georgia. Wow, I got to get a weather forecast on here really quick. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. They're the best of what they do. I mean, they are professionals that really know tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. I urge you, and I mean this, to get a hold of them. They've got offices in Burley and Rupert serving you. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Monday, and we are looking at a 50% chance of snow before noon, plus it's going to be blowing out there as well. Mostly sunny skies by this afternoon, expecting a high of 36. Winds out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. Total snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible for today. Tonight, patchy freezing fog. After midnight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 20. For tomorrow, that patchy freezing fog is going to carry over in the morning hours. Other than that, mostly cloudy skies, high of 35. Wind could gust as high as 24 miles an hour. For tomorrow night, cloudy skies with a low of 31. Then by Wednesday, 20% chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy skies with a high of 41. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and I urge everybody to stop over or give a call to Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. You, your family, your business, it's imperative that you take care and make sure that your money is managed correctly, and I'll tell you what, they can help and they will help. Providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. Wow, am I glad that we had Dr. Elena George on the program. I'm glad that she had an opportunity to call in right after she was finished with her patient down in Atlanta. Coming up next hour, we've got another home run hitter, Dr. Michael Bustler, going to be talking about the stock market, our money, up and down, and what's going on. Then at 10:32 this morning, Jamie Glazoff and his book, Jihadist Psychopath. Whoa, chilling, and talking about what's happening with Islam infiltrating our country. Don't miss it. We're going to take a little break. Wheels, it's all yours, buddy. Thank you. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday already. It's hard to believe that it's already January the 7th. Holy smokes. Just seems like just yesterday we were all gathered together for a great big Christmas celebration. Oh, my goodness, time flies. Morning. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by Les Schwab Tire Centers, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with all the wintertime driving tires you need to drive safely. Stop in and see them today, along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Don't forget, on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days. We hear about all the great things that are happening in education with the teachers and the different members of the staff and some of the policies and everything. Don't miss it. Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley brings you Cassia County School Days Thursdays at 10:10. Don't forget, 10:10 Thursdays at Child's World, a family store at 1308 Overland in Burley. You know, this next gentleman has been on my program many, many times, and he is just one of the likable, believable guys talking about money and the economy and everything, and I really put my faith and trust in him. Dr. Michael Busler, and he, of course, a public policy analyst, economics expert, and a professor of finance. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you? I'm doing very well, and if I haven't said so far, Happy New Year to you.
And the same right back at you. My goodness sakes. It's hard to believe it's already January 7th, for heaven's sakes.
Yes, it is.
Dr. Busler, every time you're on, I learn something, and the reason I wanted to have you back on this morning is to talk about something that seems to be a real scare, if you will, to a lot of my listeners. Over the last 3 weeks, I've had a lot of calls about, ooh, boy, should I sell out of the stock market? Ooh, boy, what should I do? It looks like it's dipping way down, and then the next day it jumps way back up. Are these good signs or negative signs that we're seeing worse than a roller coaster effect in the stock market?
Well, I think it's a sign that the stock market is seeing a lot of uncertainty. So when you take a look at the price somebody's willing to pay for a share of stock, it depends on what they expect that corporation's profit to be in the future. So if you expect a corporation to be profitable, the earnings will go up, earnings per share will go up, the price of the stock will go up. That's the stock you want to buy. If you think the corporation is going to see a decline in profits or a loss, then earnings obviously go way down. The price of stock is going to go down. You want to sell before that happens. So a lot of times when the stock market is declining, especially as sharply as it has in the last month, people are saying, well, are investors thinking that corporations' profits are going to slow way down in the future? Does that mean, for instance, that we're having perhaps a recession? Now, part of that is reinforced by people who look at the business cycle. And they say, look, the way the business cycle has operated over the last 30, 40, 50 years is we tend to have a recession every 7 to 10 years. In other words, we had a recession in 1981. You then had a recovery and expansion, another recession in 1991, 10 years later, another recession in 2001, 10 years later, and another recession in 2008, 7 years later. So if the business cycle runs every 7 to 10 years, the last recession started in 2008, finished in 2009, so it's been 10 years since the last recession. Doesn't that indicate that another recession is coming relatively shortly? So if they believe that, and if you believe the economy is going to slow down, and there's some uncertainty brought on by a change in leadership in the House of Representatives and what's happening potentially with the trade war, so the uncertainty coupled with some investors thinking the economy could be slowing down next year, that's what drove the stock market down.
Let me ask you Let me ask you a question right there, if I could, Dr. Busler, and pardon my interruption, but with the Democrats, as you just stated, taking over the House of Representatives and also, I think, increasing the opportunity for a great big Grand Canyon divide between anything getting done and the anti-Trump movement, boy, the next 2 years could be devastating for the stock market, could they not?
It could, and that's what the stock market is concerned about, or investors. Look, the economy hasn't had, up until 2018, we haven't had at least 3% annual growth since the year 2005. And as a result of that, there's all kinds of economic problems that come about by having slow growth. You get people dropping out of the labor force because there's not jobs available. A lot of my students graduate from the Stockton University and other schools, look for jobs. Because of the slow growth, there's not a lot of good jobs available, so they take jobs for which they're overqualified. That creates a big employment problem because the unemployment rate was relatively high. Now it's come down, but when it was high, government has to increase spending on social programs to cover all this. So it leads to a lot of economic problems. President Trump, when he got into office, he said, my number one economic goal is to increase economic growth. So he got in last January, 2017. The first thing he did was reduce burdensome regulations. Since he did that, he got in January, February, March. He reversed as many as he could. By April, the economy was growing at a 3% rate, and we've continued at that 3% rate or better since then. Then in the Congress last fall passed a tax cut. The tax cut also stimulated economic growth. 2017, we grew at 2.9%, almost 3%. 2018, the number will be out, the first estimate at the end of January, will probably grow at about 3.2, 3.3% rate for the year. So Trump is concentrating on growth. The Democrats concentrate on curing perceived social injustices. For instance, it's an injustice everybody doesn't have health care. It's an injustice that CEOs make so much more than everybody else. And it's an injustice that the minimum wage is too low. It's an injustice that big banks and corporations take advantage of consumers. So every time the Democrats concentrate on curing a perceived social injustice, which is what President Obama did his entire term in office, it puts burdens on economic growth and tends to slow growth down. So what the investors, I think, are worried about and the uncertainty, if the Democrats, since they now control the House of Representatives, are they going to be able to get something through that, because they're trying to cure perceived social injustices, get something through that slows economic growth? And if they do, that's going to lead to poor corporate profits, and that's a reason I think that investors are looking to sell stocks now. Personally, I don't think any of that is founded. I think the economic growth, which will be in 3.2, 3.3% in 2018, I think 2019 growth will be even a little higher than that. Now, you might say to me, well, if the business cycle operates, aren't we due for a recession now? And I would answer back to that, I don't think so. And the reason is, after a recession, which lasts, 6, 8, 9, 10 months, a year, after a recession, you have a recovery, which should last a year or two, and then you go into an expansion, which should last 3, 4, 5 years before you start to slow down again. The problem is, President Obama started the recovery, at least it was started under his term. The problem is we never got out of the recovery stage. We never got into an expansion, and it wasn't until President Trump came into office and concentrated on economic growth that the economy entered the expansion stage. So I don't think a recession is coming next year. I think we're due for some good growth next year. And I think the stock market is misreading some of this, and that's why every time you see a little bit of good news, the stock market jumps way back up again, because people feel that, hey, maybe we've misread this, maybe the slowdown is not going to occur. I would say to people, if they're nervous about the stock market, and most people's, literally their life savings is tied up there, so I certainly understand anxiety. But unless you're going to retire sometime in the next 6 months, I wouldn't worry about it, because by April or May or June, the stock market, I believe, will be back up to where it was before, and we've lived through this correction period. So I would say to everybody, don't get too nervous. If you're not retiring for years down the road, don't even look at the stock market. Come back and look at it around Easter time or Memorial Day. We'll be back up to where we were, and you'll have skipped all this anxiety.
Dr. Bussler, let me ask you this, and I'm going to say it in a very naive way because I don't have the verbiage that you do when it comes to economic matters. But instead of the word recession, I've often thought, and tell me if I'm wrong, that word could be replaced with kind of a phrase of resettling or refurbishing, and instead of recession. In other words, maybe we need to take a look at everything, get the huddle, and call a new football play for the next couple of years. Would that be a better terminology than sounding so negative with recession?
Well, it certainly would, and it would take some of the negative connotation. The thing is with recession, the reason economists use it is they want to emphasize the fact that the economy has seen negative growth, so it's declining. So instead of GDP increasing 3% a year, we measure it by quarter at an annual rate of 3%, the economy has negative growth, and that's what a recession means, that the economy is shrinking rather than expanding. So that's why they like to use the term recession, because it shows it's recessing back.
Right. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about, and I'm going to use the term manipulation, and you can correct that term if it's not right, but the Fed and the control over our money system, it leaves me a little cold sometimes, because I don't think the Fed really should have that much power over our money and our regulatory systems on money. What are your thoughts?
You know, this is a debate that's been going on really for 40 or 50 years, since Milton Friedman won the Nobel Prize in 1976, and he's the one that really advocated the use of monetary policy. Up until that point, the government essentially used fiscal policy, government spending and taxes, to try to reach the economic goals. The question then became, does the Federal Reserve, which operates independently of any government agency, so they don't have to listen to anybody, does the Federal Reserve have too much power? Now, Milton Friedman argued that they shouldn't worry about interest rates. They just should keep the money supply at a point that allows the economy to grow and keeps inflation down. But there is some debate over how much control the Federal Reserve should have. And as an average American citizen, every time I see them raising interest rates, and I don't really see a reason for it, I say, well, you know, if I'm going to go take out a loan for something, it's going to now cost me more money to do so. And a lot of interest rate sensitive sectors like home building and automobiles have been hurt because the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates 9 times in the last two years. Granted, they were at near zero levels, but they've taken them up very rapidly, and I think President Trump is right. The Federal Reserve can go a little slower now. We don't have any inflation problem, and we don't want to choke off this expansion that we finally entered into. So I share your frustration with the Federal Reserve, and maybe there'll be a better way to do this, but for right now, the Federal Reserve seems to be the best way to handle economic policy, to try to reach the economic goals, which are supposed to be price stability, keep inflation under 3%, growth in the economy, at least 3 to 4% on average, and full employment, which is getting the unemployment rate down under 4%. So we're at the point where we're close to reaching these goals, We don't need the Federal Reserve to overreact and slow the economy down. What we need now is a big growth spurt in the economy. And we're talking 3-4%. That's good growth. We should have better than that. In 1981, President Reagan cut taxes, went into effect in 1982. In 1984, the economy grew at an annual rate of 7.5%. So we need, I don't know if we're going to get to that, but we need higher growth rates for a few years to really get the economy going again, get people that are underemployed working at better jobs. Wages now are starting to rise. Higher growth would end up doing that. So we should be promoting growth, and if all government officials worked as a primary goal to improve economic growth, the stock market would start going back up again.
You know, Dr. Bussler, you've been on this program many times, and we've talked about this subject in the past, but I'm going to maintain and stand firm that with America's energy program as it is today, growing with fossil fuels, natural gas, etc., we are on the verge of absolutely jumping out of the hole and being the world leader for a long time to come. But on the other side of the coin, the Ocasio-Cortezes, the Bernie Sanders, and others, they want to take us just to a green energy program of solar and wind, which I maintain and will stand behind, will take the economy of the United States, trash it, throw it in the bin, burn it forever. We will never be able to overcome a Democratic leadership that espouses green energy.
I'm going to agree with you there. In the long term, I certainly understand the value of clean energy. But if the people, if the American public believe that is the way to go now, then they'll change things by movements in the marketplace. Because Americans are still buying a lot of traditional energy, Americans, I think, are saying, yes, we realize in the future perhaps we should go to clean energy. But you're absolutely right, Deb. You would destroy the economy if you tried to very quickly go from the traditional fossil fuels to the renewable energy. The only reason really we have any renewable energy or much renewable energy today is the government has been subsidizing it. And if it's something that the American consumers, American voters, really want, then the government shouldn't have to subsidize it. Americans would just go ahead and buy it. So we're on the verge now. We're in the middle of an energy boom. We're now a net exporter of oil and energy rather than a net importer. So no longer are we at the whims of OPEC. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember back in the 1970s when we had the real oil crunch, and they were rationing gasoline. You can only buy every other day based on a letter in your license plate. So all of that has gone away. Prices, now that we let the marketplace react and we allow new firms to enter the market and to drill in other places, gasoline prices, which were as high as $4 a gallon, are now close to $2 a gallon, or not much above that. And that's really good for the economy. You know, people used to say when gas prices go up, it's like a tax increase on people. Well, if you believe that, then when gas prices are going down, it's like a big tax cut to people. People are spending less on gasoline. You have more money to spend on other things. So I think the energy sector, and I would agree with you, the energy sector is very important. Whatever change the marketplace wants to make, let the marketplace make that change over time. We'll all be better off.
Let me ask you one final thought here. We've seen now the Trump administration in 2 years and the transition of thinking from Obama's administration. What about the people? The people involved in this administration. Are you optimistic that this man, Donald Trump, has the right people working for the betterment of our economy?
Well, if he doesn't, he's not hesitant to kick them out and bring somebody else in. Remember, he's a business person. He's not a politician. A politician looks to do things the politically correct way and bring in the people who are connected in the right way. President Trump is not a politician. He's a business person. He wants to bring in the people that he believes will do the best job. Larry Kudlow, I agree with his philosophy, and I think he's doing a good job. Steve Mnuchin, I think, is going to end up doing a good job, too, in his new role. He's an acting role. Now, I believe, yes, President Trump has the right people in place there. He has the right policies, consistent with conservative views, and that is to say that we have a small government, low taxes, and those are the things that really, and less regulation, and those are the things that really get the economy going, and growth, as we said, is the most important thing. So I think Trump's got the right people, and he's doing the right thing.
Sounds to me like you've got another call to catch, and I'm going to say thank you very much to Dr. Michael Busler, public policy analyst and economics expert and professor. Thank you, sir. God bless, and please come back on the program soon.
I certainly will, Zeb. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
God bless. Thank you very, very much. I have a lot of trust and respect in that man's opinion, and he tells it in such easy-to-understand terms. Dr. Michael Busler, and he is a professor of finance at Stockton University in the state of New Jersey. Thank you very much. Oh, boy, let's see, where am I at here right now? Yes, I want to remind you about our friends at Quality's Electronics. Hello, Bruce and the crew. My good, listen to this. They've got both Dish and DirecTV, but if you sign up right now for Dish TV, you can lock in your price for 2 years. Listen, lock of price for 2 years. You get local installation and service. Now listen, please, folks, help me out on this. Anybody that goes into Quality's Electronics at 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls and mentions my name will get an extra $50 credit on their first bill. Woohoo! When they mention my name and my radio program. Well, you can't beat that with a stick. You'd better check it out now. Dish TV at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Be sure and go in there and mention my name, and you'll get a $50 credit on your first bill with Dish. Take advantage of it. Stop in and see Bruce and the crew at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. And don't forget, mention my name. Save money. Woo! Coming up in just a moment, we're going to have the author of the book called Jihadist Psychopath. How the charming, seducing, and devouring us. Jamie, and I hope I say the last name correctly. I'll ask him when I get on the air. Glazoff, the author, is going to be on the program with us, so don't miss that. And for those that have called and asked and are wondering, yes, we're going to have a lunch bunch. Yes, it's going to be later on this month of January. And yes, I have the date for you. It's going to be on Thursday, January the 24th. So write that down on your book, if you will, please. Thursday at 11:30, January 24th, lunch bunch at Denny's Restaurant in Burley. So now I'm way ahead of the game, and you've got it written in your book, and it's etched in stone. There you go. We're going to send it back over to Wheels for a few moments and then come back with more. Don't go away, Zeb at the Ranch.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour, and I'm really looking forward to having this next gentleman on the program. He was scheduled for last Thursday, and we had to cancel that interview because I wasn't on the air, thanks to some problems that we had to take care of. But he's scheduled for this morning and ready to go. And I'd like to say a good morning to author Jamie Glazoff. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be here. Can you hear me okay?
I can, and I want to extend the same to you. I hope you can hear me all right. And did I pronounce your last name correctly? Please tell me.
Yes, you did. Fantastic.
All right. I got to tell you something. When I saw a little informative sheet come across my desk about your book called Jihadist Psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us, it piqued my attention because I have long said on this program, Jamie, that I think the American citizen today is very naive about what's happening with Islam and how they want to extend their power to the United States. Am I wrong?
Well, no, you're completely right, my friend. Completely right.
Give us a little synopsis of what you talk about in your book, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, look, for many years I was studying the world of psychopathy, of how psychopaths behave, of how they perpetrate their war, of how they seduce and charm and devour their victims. Psychopaths have a very special step-by-step plan according to which they act. Now, as I started also comparing these notes, because, you know, I've dedicated my life to protecting America and our freedoms and liberties, when I began to see the process of Islamization, how jihad works and perpetrates its violence, how stealth jihad works, how all of these tactics that the Islamic supremacists are using to take over and defeat us, I began to see that it's exactly the same step-by-step process by which psychopaths devour their victims. So let me just give you one example. Now, in the psychopathic game plan, there's a romance stage, a charming stage, a seduction stage. Then the claws go into you, and they have a hold of you, and many victims cannot let go of that hold. During that process, I'll just tell you one thing that's happening once you're in the psychopath's claws. When the psychopath punches you in the face, after about 30 seconds, he begins to sulk and to pout, and the victim begins to apologize to him. The psychopath is very good in making himself the victim after he's perpetrated abuse onto his victim. Now, let me just give you, just a quick, analogy here, and just to show what's happening. Look at what's happening around us. Look at every single jihadist attack. We just had some in France. We just had some over here. Every time there's a jihadist attack, and a jihadist is screaming Allahu Akbar and stabbing infidels and kafirs and unbelievers, what does our establishment media do? Within about an hour, they're talking about, the Muslim community is fearing a backlash, and all of a sudden, our society is on our knees begging for the Muslim community to forgive us, and that we're not Islamophobes, and we're not racist, and we're going to be very tolerant. Something is very wrong here.
Now, this book is a must-read, I would think, and I've got to get a copy of it as soon as I can. But, and Wheels over at the station, I'm going to ask you to turn Mr. Glazoff up a little louder when he's speaking, please. The connection's very weak. But, Jamie, let me ask you this. Have we gone almost too far in allowing and permitting the jihadists to come into this country and basically get this feeling like they can do no wrong?
Well, absolutely. I've turned up my volume. I hope that helped a little bit.
Yes.
But, no, absolutely. Look, the left is brilliant in how it operates. See, what the left has done, connected to what I was saying previously, is they turned the tables in terms of who is guilty. And this is connected to what I was saying earlier. So you see, what the Unholy Alliance has done, this is the alliance between Islam and the left. What they've done very cleverly is anybody that has anything to say about Islam or jihad is instantly called a racist and an Islamophobe, a xenophobe, and a white supremacist. So people are scared. People don't want to be called those names. So now, in terms of immigration, in terms of illegal immigration, in terms of, not even having a wall or security or letting anybody into this country without any vetting, all of that is now a disaster zone. And the foundation was paid for this by Obama, because the Obama administration made sure that you can't even ask anything about quote-unquote religion. So we're in a position where we can't ask somebody if they believe in Sharia law. And this is our self-destruction.
What do you see in the not-too-distant future with politics? And I want to go back to the two women that were just recently sworn into our Congress, one putting her hand on the Quran, the other wearing a Palestinian flag as her inauguration dress. I'm very concerned, along with Keith Ellison out of Minnesota and many others, that are involved in politics and now have the power to make things change for their benefit. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. That's how they work. It's a very, very slow, gradual process. And in the beginning, they come with smiles. And while the Sharia followers are the minority in the unbelievers' environment, They talk about love and acceptance and interfaith communication. But when their numbers begin to grow, then they really begin to abide by Sharia. And what happens then is all the persecution and the oppression of the unbelievers.
You know, when you look at this thing and you were writing this book, I've got to ask you this question. When you were doing all the research about the jihadists and how they work, how they operate, how they want to undermine, and the time is not a problem because they'll take all the time in the world to get their evil ways in the forefront. What bothered you or scared you the most that you didn't know while you were writing this book?
Well, look, I wouldn't say that I didn't know, but I will say when the accumulation of the evidence piles on, it begins to infuriate you more and more and to scare you in the sense of the tremendous threat and evil that we face. So I'll just give you, just very quickly here. The Obama administration comes into office. In 2011-ish, 2012-ish, there was a certain process going on. The Muslim Brotherhood front groups, CARE, ISNA, MSA, all these front groups were approaching the administration and saying, let us take a look at your intelligence agency manuals. We want to look at them. Imagine the American government handing over its manuals to the KGB during the Cold War. But that's what the Obama administration did. And after those Muslim Brotherhood front groups looked at all those manuals, they came up to Obama and all his people and said to John Brennan and all of them, and Eric Holder, all those people participated in that. They said to them, take out references to radical Islam, take out references to Islam, take out references to Jihad. That's what the Obama administration did. So therefore, a threat assessment could not be made. And guess what? San Bernardino, Orlando, Boston Marathon Massacre. I could go on and on. All of that was enabled by the Obama administration because of its policies, because we cannot even identify our enemy. Sun Tzu taught, know thy enemy. Now, this is what the left has done. They have blindfolded us and tied our hands behind our back because we simply cannot even make a threat assessment. Now, thank God for Donald Trump, because as you notice, during his campaign and ever since he came into office, he has been saying those words that are very important to say, which includes Islam, radical Islam, jihad. However you want to frame it, there's a debate in terms of what's the most accurate, but at least the Trump administration has started labeling the threat, making a threat assessment, and having wonderful people in the administration like John Bolton. So that's our hope under Donald Trump.
Jamie, I guess I would go back to this question. I don't mean to beleaguer this point, but I've got to ask you this. Okay. How come the American public, you, me, everybody, was so naive in accepting this concept of welcoming them in with open arms? I have never in my life on this program said anything but be very alarming about what they're trying to do. But yet there are many others right here in my community that have called me a bigot and a hate monger because I'm against the policies that are being instructed in this country. How come we were so naive in the beginning?
Well, look, it also depends in terms of who we're talking about. When you're called those names, when we're called those names, let's even begin with this. When they say racist, when they say supremacist or white supremacist, all this stuff, let's remember that when we deal with Islam, we're not even talking about a race. It's an ideology. And we're also not talking about all Muslims. We're talking about the devout Muslims that are following the violent commands of the Quran. So that's another issue that we need to get into. But overall, in terms of the naivete that you're bringing up, absolutely, and that's what my book narrows in on. Because when there are communities under siege, psychologically, when a community is under siege, Kenneth Levin has documented this in his book Oslo Syndrome, and it's all interconnected with Stockholm Syndrome. And I deal with this in my book. Communities that are under siege, most of the people in that community, or a very large number, try to delude themselves that everything will be okay. It's the same thing with Chamberlain and Hitler, etc., etc. People by nature, you have to fight against some of your instincts. A lot of people want to believe that everything will be okay, and they try to deny the threat that they're facing.
What about our politicians? And that is a subject that we could go on for hours, Jamie, but the naivete or the stupidity of our politicians, or maybe even a buy-off as to their turning the other eye or a blind eye and a deaf ear to the problem. What about them?
Well, absolutely. It's in our leadership as well. I mean, look at what's happened in Britain in terms of the Muslim rape gangs. 1 million girls, victims over the last decade. The child services, the authorities, the police, the leadership all turned a blind eye because there's, number one, a cowardice and also a willful blindness. And this is exactly what I'm dealing with in my book, and you're exactly right to bring this up. It's in our media. It's in our leadership. And it's a terror and fear of the psychopath. And it's the same thing. That's what I show in my book, because the psychopath, once he's romanced you and got inside of your network and in your home, it's such a terror that most people are just terrified to face the truth. And our leadership is exactly the same. Today they are terrified to say anything about honor killings, female genital mutilation, all the barbarities of Sharia, complete silence. Look at even the Golden Globe Awards last night. All of them talking about women's rights and women's rights. Did you see one word on behalf of the Iranian women in prison today for not wearing a hijab? That stuff bleeds into our leadership as well.
Let me ask you this thought then. Here we are today, January 7th, 2019. What do we do as a rebuttal? What do we do to fight back? Is it in our school system? How do we employ a fight back in our school system? Is it in our churches? Do we have any pastors out there or ministers that have the guts, quite frankly, simply speaking, to stand up and preach exactly what's happening? What do we do?
Well, this is exactly it. Every single question of yours is crucial, because I would go back to the beginning right now to answer that and say that one of the reasons we're in this mess is because most conservatives are failures at fighting culture war. Gramsci and Alinsky, they taught the left how to fight for the culture and therefore how to gain political power. Conservatives walk around boasting that they're going to shoot a jihadist on their front doorstep, but they're not even engaged in the culture and in the political sphere to stop a jihadist from getting into the country in the first place. So number one, you have to fight culture war. Get engaged. Don't cancel your cable. Write a script. Or if you don't want to write a script, support those who do. So look, the first thing is information, to get educated. Write a letter to a magazine. Support important groups. For instance, I'm with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. I'm the editor of Front Page. That center is led by a hero named David Horowitz, a former leftist who understands the left, and we fight the left. Support organizations like the David Horowitz Freedom Center, like my TV show, The Glazov Gang. What we're trying to do is ask the questions and invite the guests that you'll never see on Don Lemon, you'll never see on Anderson Cooper, you'll never see on Rachel Maddow. So either get involved yourself or start supporting those people who are telling the truth.
You know, Jamie, I've got to ask you before time runs out, the book, where can it be found? What are the outlets, please, for the book called Jihadist Psychopath, How He is Charming, Seducing, and Devouring Us? Where can they find it?
Well, thank you so much. Well, look, the simplest thing to do is just go to Amazon.com, because that's where everything is at. Jihadist Psychopath, Amazon.com. Come to my website, JamieGlazov.com. JamieGlazov.com, because not only will you be able to purchase the book, but you're going to be able to read everything about it. I mean, Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, has praised it. Dennis Prager has praised it. I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that a lot of these titans have said something very praiseworthy about my book. And also, as I said, I'm the editor of FrontPageMag.com. I work side by side with the hero of this world, David Horowitz, who's exposing and fighting the left and its evil agenda. So come to Front Page as well.
Jamie Glazov with his book, Jihadist Psychopath. I've got to get a copy. I've got to read it on a ASAP basis and have you back as fast as I can. Thank you for what you've written, and we'll have you back on the program. Thank you so much.
Real honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I've got to get a copy of this book, and I think it's going to lay it out just like many other guests have talked about on our program, Brigitte Gabriel and many others. We are so naive about the influences of Islam coming into our country and coming into our culture. And I think we've got to wake up, smell the coffee before it's too late. Right now, it's time for the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats. Hello, Don Scarrow. How are you? 331 North Road, Jerome. He and his staff, oh my goodness, have they got all the delicious meats for every occasion. Oh my. They're located, like I said, at 331 North Road, Jerome. You can call them at 324-7657 or go to their website and learn more at scarrowsmeats.com. Whether it's the pork ribs or whether it's the tri-tips or the prime ribs or whether it's all the beef, pork, and chicken, and they've got all the delicious different kind of meat boxes for gifts to give away. Oh, it's wonderful. And the sausages and the bratwurst, I could go on. Delicious meats from Scarrows Meats. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Monday, and we are looking at a 50% chance of snow before noon, plus it's going to be blowing out there as well. Mostly sunny skies by this afternoon, expecting a high of 36. Winds out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. Total snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible for today. Tonight, patchy freezing fog. After midnight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 20. For tomorrow, that patchy freezing fog is going to carry over in the morning hours. Other than that, mostly cloudy skies, high of 35. Wind could gust as high as 24 miles an hour. For tomorrow night, cloudy skies with a low of 31. Then by Wednesday, 20% chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy skies with a high of 41. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zevitz Ranch.
There you go, Gina. Thank you very much, and brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at 331 North Road, Jerome, and the number to call to find out more, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrows Meats. I've got a moment or two, so give me a call. I'd love to visit with you at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. PETA is at it again, and I love the way they say things. They are demanding. PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment to Animals, these kooks and crackpots, now they're after the live mascots for various colleges and universities. They want to ban all live mascots from any participation at the games, and they want to have animals completely left out of the equation. They don't want any animals as mascots. They say it's demeaning to the animals, and they want all of this to go away. I had to laugh a little bit because all of this seemed to come to the forefront just recently after the Georgia Bulldogs took on the Texas Longhorns in a college game during the holiday season. And the great big Texas Longhorn saw the Bulldog, and they had kind of a face-off for about 5 or 10 seconds. And then the old Longhorn from Texas said, "I'm going after that Bulldog." And the Bulldog says, "I'm going after the Longhorn." And fortunately, nobody was injured. No animals were injured whatsoever. But all of this seems to come at the forefront of PETA saying they want a ban on all animal livestock. They don't want anything as far as mascots are concerned at any of the games. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? You know, they didn't like any association with any Indian names. They didn't like any association with anything of the culture that might they think be demeaning. Now they want to get rid of all the animal mascots. What's left? What are we going to have? Georgia State Cinderellas taking on the Texas Wussies? Is that what we're going to have left? Calls welcome. Don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of tires for winter driving conditions. I mean, no matter what the road and the weather forecast throws at you, they've got all the tires, all the different tread designs, all the sizes for your cars, your pickups, your SUVs. They've got it all at all 7 locations. Absolutely, along with the best in brake service and front end alignments, shocks and struts and batteries, all of this and so much more. But the key is service, taking care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland and Burley, all 7 of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And I want to put a little personal note in here right now. They have been and will continue to be our major sponsor of Zeb at the Ranch, and we really, really appreciate them. Going back to what I said in the first hour, thank you for being such an outstanding audience. There was a little problem last Thursday. We had to cancel the program because of some health problems with Deanne. Had to make sure that she was taken care of first and foremost. All is going well. I want to tell you that. And I do apologize for not being on the air. But as I said in the first hour, I cannot thank enough 2 wonderful people that when I called at the last minute, they jumped right in with both feet and said they'll help. And that's, of course, Gina and Wheels. Thank you for all your help and support. Quick note, during the holidays, I had a lot of people say, hey, we'd sure like to get your blog, Cow Pies and Coffee Cups. All you have to do is go to zebbell.com, and plug in your address. We'll get it to you. Caller, I've got exactly 30 seconds. Go.
So where's PETA when these forest fires are going on and all the animals are getting burned?
Well, they sit in their ivory towers and they say nothing unless it's advantageous for them at a certain time to come out and try to make hay while the sun shines. You know that answer as well as I do.
Well, that's something that really, makes me mad.
I don't blame you a bit. Call me on this tomorrow. We'll talk more about it because I have no use for PETA and other organizations, Humane Society of the United States. There's another loser. We'll talk more about it later, but right now I'm flat out of time. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're going to turn it back over to our main studio and be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06, where we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. See you tomorrow morning.